Surah 48, Al-Fath. By the one who is denoted by the name Allah, who created my being with his names in accord with the meaning of the letter B, the Rahman, the Rahim. Indeed, we have given you the clear conquest, Fath, the clear observation of the system of the reality, that Allah may forgive, cover, conceal your past, and, in spite of the conquest, Fath, future misdeeds, the veils resulting from corporeality, and complete his favor upon you, and guide you to the experience of your reality, essence. Allah will lead you to an unmatched mighty victory. It is who sends tranquility, sense of security, to the hearts of the believers, that they would increase in faith. The soldiers of the heavens and the earth belong to Allah. Allah is the Alim, the Hakim. And to admit the believing men and women to paradises, underneath which rivers flow, in which they will abide eternally, in order to remove from them their bad deeds. This is the great attainment in the sight of Allah, and that He may punish the hypocrite men and women, and the dualist men and women, who misperceive Allah, who comprises their essential reality with His names as a God. May the evil turn of fortune be upon them for their assumptions. Allah's wrath and curse is upon them. Distance them from the experience of the reality due to their denial, and prepared hell for them. What a wretched place of return. The soldiers, forces of the heavens and the earth belong to Allah. Allah is the Aziz, the Hakim, mighty wise. Indeed, we disclosed you as a witness, giver of good news, and as a warner. So believe in Allah, your essential reality, with His names and His Rasul, messenger. Support Him, exalt and respect Him, and engage in glorifying Him, tasbih, by morning and night. Indeed, those who pledge allegiance to you have pledged allegiance to Allah. The hand of Allah is over their hands. The hand of Allah administers over the hands of those who pledge allegiance. So he who breaks his word has broken it against his own self, and he who keeps his word to Allah will be given a great reward. Verse 10 there and verse 18 are ones that are still used to this day in not only Sufi orders when joining, but in political pledges. Those who remain behind, the Bedouins say, our properties and children kept us occupied, so ask forgiveness for us. But they say with their tongues what they do not actually mean. Say, who can go against the will of Allah if He intended to give you harm, or if He willed to benefit you? No, Allah is aware of what you do, as the creator of your actions. You thought the Rasul, delegate, and the believers would not return to their families. This seemed pleasing to your consciousness, and thus you assumed a bad assumption and became a people worthy of suffering. Whoever does not believe in Allah and His Rasul, sent one, as their essential reality with His names, let them know that we have prepared a blaze of fire, waves of radiation, for those who deny the knowledge of the reality. The sovereignty of the heavens and the earth is for the manifestation of the names of Allah. He forgives, covers the offensive state of whom He wills, and gives suffering, the consequence of corporeality, to whom He wills. Allah is the Ghafur, the Rahim. Those who remain behind will say, when you go to collect the spoils of war, let us come with you. They want to change the words of Allah. Say, you could never follow us, for this is what Allah said, decreed before. Then they will say, no, you envy us. On the contrary, there are people devoid of understanding. Say the Bedouins who remain behind, you will be called to battle against a people of great strength and might. Either you fight them, or they will submit to Islam. If you obey, Allah will give you a good reward, but if you turn away, as you turned away before, then He will subject you to a great suffering. There is no obligation upon the blind, the cripple, and the one who is ill. If he obeys Allah and His Rasul, Messenger, He will admit him to paradises underneath which rivers flow. But whoever turns away, He will punish him with a severe suffering. Indeed, Allah was pleased with the believers when they pledged allegiance to you under the tree. He knew what was in their hearts, so He gave tranquility, serenity, angelic presence, Shekinah, if we're going to use the biblical word, to their hearts, and rewarded them with an eminent conquest, certainty. And that verse that started with indeed is what I was talking about earlier as one of the verses that people say as part of pledges of allegiance. And He gave them many spoils of war. Allah is the Aziz, the Hakim, the mighty, the wise. Allah has promised many spoils of war to you, and He has hastened this for you, and withheld the hands of people from you, that this may be a sign for the believers, and that He may guide you to a straight path. And He promised other things to them, which you are not capable of, that Allah had already encompassed, internally and externally. Allah is Qadir, powerful over all things. If those who deny the knowledge of the reality were to fight with you, they would surely have turned their backs in flight, and then they would not have found a friend, protector, or a helper. This is the established Sunnatullah, way of God, and never will you find in the Sunnatullah, the mechanics of Allah's system, any change. It is He who withheld their hands from you, and your hands from them, in the center of Mecca, after He made you overcome them. Allah is Basir, observing of your actions as their creator. They are those who deny the knowledge of the reality, obstruct you from the Masjid al-Haram, and prevent the offerings from reaching their places. If it was not for the believing men and women among them, of whom you are unaware, and thus could inadvertently trample, and then be upset by it, Allah would not have Allah would not have prevented the battle. This was so that Allah may admit whom He wills to His grace. If the believers and non-believers had been separate from one another, surely we would have punished those who disbelieved with a severe suffering. Suffering does not befall a place where there are righteous people. Surah 8, Ayat 33, Surah 29, Ayat 32. And I presume the difficulty, because suffering is like self-inflicted, making things worse than they are. I mean, things can be really bad and there be no suffering. But the deniers of the knowledge of the reality had put patriotism, ethnocentricity, pride out of arrogance, and narrow-mindedness, conservatism into their hearts. Allah gave tranquility, serenity, other aspects of spiritual trance to those who believed in Allah and His Rasul, Messenger, and secured upon them the truth. There is no God, only Allah. La ilaha illallah. They were those who experienced this reality and were deserving of it. Allah is Alim, knowing of all things. Indeed, Allah confirmed to His Rasul, Messenger, His vision in truth. Inshallah, with the manifestation of the names of Allah comprising your essence, you will most definitely enter the Masjid al-Haram in safety, with some of your head shaved or shortened without any fear. Allah, knowing what you do not know, has arranged before this an imminent conquest of closeness, certainty. He disclosed His Rasul, Messenger, as the articulator of the reality, and upon the religion of truth, the understanding of the reality of the Sunnatullah, way sanctioned by God, which is the system and order manifesting the names of Allah, superior to all understanding of religion, and sufficient is Allah with His presence in their being as Shaheed, witness. And this is one of the 4 passages where Muhammad's name is mentioned. Muhammad is the Rasulullah, messenger of God. Those with him are stern against the deniers of the reality, but compassionate among themselves. You will see them bowing in awe of the observation of Allah's names as the absolute administrator over existence at all times, prostrating with the awareness that existence comprises only the names, and thus experiencing their non-existence with the realization of not having a separate independent being, seeking the bounty, the awareness of the forces of the names and the pleasure of Allah, enlightenment to the reality and the ability to actualize its potentials, and on their faces consciousness is the mark of prostration, the comprehension of their non-existence. This is their metaphoric description in the Torah, laws in regards to the identity self, and their description, similitude, in the gospel is that of a plant, which produces its offshoots and strengthens them so they grow firm and stand upon their stalks, giving delight to its sowers. Allah does this to enrage the deniers, coverers of the reality with them, the manifestations of his names. Allah has promised those who believe and fulfill its requisites forgiveness and a great reward. There's a sect that has twisted the opening of Surah 63 and said, you're not supposed to say Muhammad or Rasulullah, in the call to prayer or anything else. And they're like, well, it's a phrase in the Quran. But of course they're like saying, and then, they will even skip passages of the Quran that mention prophets. And it's like, just because you're reciting a passage of scripture that mentions something other than God in prayer doesn't mean that you're taking that thing as a deity. I myself, in some of the things I do, some people may have different intentions, but I am mentioning, or representing cosmological truths. It's not, that I'm, in the extra things that I do, am worshiping this, that, and the other. I'm you worship God alone.